I want that guy and this guy available the rest of the year.
What's up, guys? TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs. I'm outside of the Rollo Insurance Studio in the Fishbowl. Kay Nagley's right there. Matthew Dawson's back there. Luke, I think, is back there as well. We had OB on the show. We had Scot Loeffler, Bowling Green head coach, on the show. Really great interview. Go check that out on TexAgs.com if you want to see the full thing. Of course, Billy on a Friday and the McKinney Bros with the final countdown. Check it out.
But let's go with on the theory that it's going to be Marcel Reed.
Okay.
You know, had a heck of a game last week. 178 yards passing, a 29-yard touchdown pass to Thor Orstrom, 73 yards to Cyrus Allen. Looked excellent. Didn't throw a lot, but he didn't have to.
Yep.
And when he did, he threw it pretty well. So he's still inexperienced, gaining experience, but still relatively inexperienced. He's going against a Bowling Green secondary with two senior cornerbacks. You know, you got Ja'Cory Benjamin and Jordan I don't even know how to say it.
And nobody does. His family doesn't either.
Oladikin. But also an all-MAC safety and C.J. Brown. Maybe Oladikin used to play for the Eleni. Anyway, they have a lot of guys that transferred. Their pass defense has been pretty solid in 2 games. You know, they surrendered just 204 passing yards in the 34-27 loss to Penn State. And that's Drew Aller, who, you know, I'm not overly impressed with, but the national media seems to think that he's one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten. So remember, the Nittany Lions didn't take control of that game until there was like 5 minutes to go in the game. And a big part of that was, Aller had 2 touchdown passes, but not a great game.
Sure, you knew this was coming, because I got to ask you about that quarterback room. Along with Brian Griese, there's also a gentleman that's the GOAT, Tom Brady, that you got to see as a freshman get manhandled at practice, yet handle that. Talk about what you saw from Tom back in the day and then the Tom that we see now.
Well, I will never forget it. It was Brian and I think it was our junior year. And I just had my second surgery. I'm sitting with a sling on. And Brian was done for the day, and they put Tommy in with the 2s. And it was the first time in a long time since my freshman year. My freshman year, they made me live to figure out if I could really do it. And they made Tommy live that day against the first defense. And I swear to goodness, this dude got the living heck knocked out of him and got up and made play after play. And you watch the ball with the 2s move up and down the field against the 1s, and you're sitting here going, there's something about this dude. And Griese and I remember it was the day before Easter. Griese and I looked at each other and we went, this guy's going to be a dude. And, he was a guy that just worked his tail off. You know, he's a CEO is what he is. You know, he's a CEO of any top 5 company in the world. He works like a savage. He loves ball. And he is so methodical and so maniacal about his technique and how he approaches and how he studies. And it was, as much as I think I gave to him, I know that I learned just as much.
Well, I got to ask you about one more guy that you coached at Florida that I love, and I don't think he gets the props that he deserves. I'm a big Tim Tebow guy. Tell me about your time with Tim Tebow.
You know what? I agree with you. I think he might have been the greatest quarterback to play college football. And that's a lot being said when you got Peyton Mannings of the world in that conference. I mean, the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 has had such good quarterbacks. But if you really look at what Tim really did, how many guys can essentially play fullback and tailback and play quarterback? Because that was that system. I mean, how many guys could actually do that? The amount of carries that he had in a game, he's running Q power. You're supposed to be turning and handing that off to a 240-pound running back in the SEC, except now he's running the the power play. And to sit in that pocket and take the beating that he did and the ability to make plays that he did and the run that he had at Florida, it's pretty hard to argue that he wasn't one of the best players ever to play the game.
It is, but I want that guy and this guy available the rest of the year, because God knows if anyone knows that you can expect the unexpected at that position, it's a Texas A&M fan. And it's anyone that's ever coached here, and it's anyone that's ever played quarterback here, including the guy we have on every week. So I said it the other day, it's wild just sitting here and we're like, oh, you played when Gerard had to give up his job to Tannehill. And you played when you had to give up your job to Gerard. And you were here when you took Reggie's job when he had a sprained ankle the second half of his senior year. And you were here when, Reggie took it from Mark Ferris and Dustin Long, who were underperforming that year early on, turning the ball over and stuff. And then we go back that far, know?
It's true.
Mark Ferris was the guy, and then all of a sudden the offense, it was a bad offensive scheme, and Ferris ended up being, the unlucky victim there because I think he had I'm thinking about Mark Ferris in 2000, was it? Or 01. It was the year the Aggies actually, last time they lost an opener to Notre Dame at Notre Dame. He and Robert Ferguson were so good that it was 2000. And then all of a sudden, in 02, he gets benched for Dustin Long. Dustin ends up getting benched for Reggie. However that deal, I forget exactly how that one played out, but it's been like that ever since. So I want Connor healthy. And whether that means him sitting out this week or this week and next week or none of the weeks, play Saturday, whatever it is, I want him healthy. So whatever that takes. And in my opinion, if it's that painful a shoulder injury that he couldn't play 6 days ago, I would try my damnedest to err on the side of caution.
I'm picking Marcel Reed to have a great game. We need him to be the guy that he was. Last week, he had a tremendous game, and then I guess the only thing you could say was just bump that completion percentage up a little bit, and boom. Definite earned the Freak of the Week last week.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll do the same this week.
I like it.
I'm going to go with Cassius Howell,
Oh, wow.
a Bowling Green transfer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Led the
Nice.
MAC in sacks last season.
Nice.
Well, he did his
And,
research.
Got one. Almost got a couple last week.
He almost did. He's actually flashed quite a few times, and I think he's somebody's name who we're going to start hearing called quite a bit moving forward because between him and Kennedy, we got a couple of freaks on the outside. I think both of those guys, if we can find ways to get them on the field together in passing situations, be pretty
Pretty
tough.
distracting over there.
Sorry.
So I'd say.
My sign guy's calling me.
Billy?
Well, since I like to do two of them, I'm going to go on defense. I think this is a Nick Scorton breakout game.
Nice.
I think Nick Scorton goes out and wreaks havoc against an offense that's going to try to move. Look, they do move the ball, and they do have, look at Connor Bazelak. They're going to throw it around. He's got a couple of receivers I think are pretty good. He's got a terrific, when I say terrific, I love that tight end.
He's great.
He's like a pass catcher way more than a blocker, but right now 17 for 204 and a touchdown. He looks like a pro. So I'm going to go, they're going to try to throw it because they're going to have to. And I think Nick Scorton has himself a day. I think it's the breakout performance for him, his first takeover kind of showing in maroon and white. I thought he had some really nice plays against Florida that didn't show up as much on the, he didn't get any sacks, but I think he's going to break out. And then on offense, man, look, when the one thing Bowling Green has done, we talk about all the good, they got so many veterans, and that scares you, okay? A veteran, I call it like a mid-major, what we're talking about here, but loaded with veterans and an experienced QB, and they're very well coached, and they've played. They were down 14-6 at halftime last year against Michigan, who won the national title. They were up. They lost by 7 this year at Penn State a couple weeks ago. By 7, right? Yeah. 34-27. They put up 27 on the Nittany Lions. Oosh. It's not an easy game. It's actually far from an easy game. And
However,
but they
we're
give
picked to
up.
win by 22.5.
Well, part of
How's that?
Steve, is going to be because defensively, their rushing yards allowed per game right now through 2 games, including a game against Fordham. Do you know where Fordham is?
I'm going to guess Virginia.
Do you know where Fordham is?
I'm going to guess New Jersey.
Do you know where Fordham is?
Nantucket.
Do you know where Fordham is? Seth was the closest. I believe it's in the Bronx. It is in the Bronx. So, anywho, they give up 200-plus yards rushing a game, and that's with one of their 2 games against Fordham. So either, and I know this isn't true, but either Penn State ran for 400 and Fordham ran for none, or they both ran for a lot of yards on Bowling Green. So with that said, give me number 8, Le'Veon Moss.
All right, like, comment, subscribe, follow all of our socials for everything else, and tune in next week. Thank you.